dudes that sold drugs. That was a normal thing, right? Where I was from. They sold drugs, right? That was the norm. If they did something like that at 18 and now I'm 33 and we're in general conversation and they're like, well, yeah, I got locked up at 18 because I was selling drugs. But now that is not their lifestyle. They don't live like that. I'm going to take that into account and see how they're moving now. And from 18, if they've been to college, they've held down a stable job, they're, seeming family oriented. I'm looking how they move. That is not necessarily going, I'm going to take that into account, but I'm going to keep watching how they move. And I think I would still move forward with that. That's not going to be something that would stop me from. Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, but here's the problem with that example, right? Here's the problem with that example. The example you gave was a quality that had nothing to do with relationships, right? So he was a drug dealer.
It does. Because some people say I would never date anybody that's been locked up.
No, I hear you. I hear you that some people wouldn't choose to date a drug dealer. But just on a bare bones level, right? Being a drug dealer has no indication on whether or not you're good in a relationship. But the example I used was specifically about relationships. Specifically about hold on, hear me out. I'm specifically talking about an example of someone abusing their partner in a relationship. You're talking about their activities for getting income that have nothing to do with a relationship at all. Like meaning a person who sells drugs can still be a loving, caring husband. So that wouldn't be something to judge them by. I think what I'm saying is a better example would be because again, the things we're talking about with women are their dating history. We're talking about their sexual past. We're talking about things they do with their body, right? These are all things that relate to how you deal with someone in a relationship, because what you do with your body can be a reflection of what you're going to do with your body when you're with me, right? But what you do to get your money really it's not a good barometer of how you're going to treat me as a person or how you're going to treat me emotionally. Like a person could be a doctor that doesn't listen. Hear me out. A doctor doesn't mean he's not going to beat. If he's a doctor, does that mean he's not going to beat you? No. If he's a lawyer, does that mean he wasn't a rapist? No. If does that, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, meaning just because he has a prestigious job versus a non-prestigious job, that's no barometer on what type of person he is in the bounds of a relationship. That's why I feel like that's a bad example. Drug dealer is not. Drug dealer is an occupation, but it's not. It doesn't tell you his character in a relationship. Is what I'm saying.
Choices. Oh, sorry.
No. Let's get T in there, and let's go Luis then Cookie. Go ahead, T.
No, I was just saying, I think this is something we could argue all day and all night. I think we all it's silly to think that you don't take a person's past into account in some ways, but it's much different. Like if someone has had a baby every year from 18 to 28, of course you're going to factor that in. Or if somebody has or versus somebody dating a bad guy or dating a guy that didn't like her for real or somebody that cheated on her. Like it's, there's things, we're going to take things into account. I don't think that I was hoping that maybe we could move on from this because we could argue this all day. Like there's things that, yes, you're going to factor into their dating history and there's things that we're not like, okay. And it's going to vary from person to person. Like there's no absolutes on this. And it was wearing me out just going back and forth. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. One of the things that I want to kind of highlight, and I know we've never really talked about this on this panel, is giving people's power of choice, not being able to take people's power of choice away, right? When we consent to things, we understand the full barometer of what we're signing up for. If I understand that this person is this and how they move and how they operate and how they treat other people, I'm signing up for that because I've seen it. That person has told me, and I have checked off on it. When we leave things off the table, regardless if they judge us or they might not rock with us, that's perfectly fine. You just understand that person wasn't going to be in alignment because they understand something about you that they don't feel that is well aligned with them and who they are, right? And sort of like Miss Taken's example of the whole drug dealer, I don't want to beat a dead horse. that's only acceptable in this community because we have an understanding of like it was okay because it was that time. When we expand outside, other people don't necessarily align with that or agree with that frame of thinking. So we have to be like very careful with how we're talking about that. But I'm very keen on, you know, people's power of choice, people understanding like, look, like this is my situation or this is my dating history, et cetera, et cetera. Let me make my decision whether I want to continue to pour time into you in quality time, resources, etc. So I understand that a lot of people are omitting things in order to get the person that they want while omitting a lot of the things. People are going to accept you and embrace you because there are certain things about you that they like or enjoy inherently that they will forgive certain things from your past. They're like, look, I understand that. I hope that you've moved on for it. Can you give me examples of what that looks like, et cetera, and have the conversation? But a lot of people are too afraid of being judged because they haven't really sat long enough with themselves to forgive themselves to move on from that and be able to talk about it, not as like a detriment, but something like, hey, I went to this dark place and I understood what it did to me, but I've came back from that and I became better. You know what I'm saying? And people will salute your journey through that. Unfortunately, when it just comes to dating and stuff, one of the things that I look at and what I talk about is more like, what is your longest relationship? What did you learn from it? What were the things that, you know, that made you a much better woman? What are the things that made you a much better partner? And, you know, what are the things that you hoping to see out of, you know, your future relationship and how you are expected to or tend to grow? I think those are much more fruitful conversations to kind of understand people's mind frame and how they think. At times you will find people stumped because I've asked these questions and people will look like the old 1990s, you know, computer where it's still loading because they haven't really thought about this and they haven't been on a date with someone who's intentional, who has brought these questions up to them. It's typically like where you want to travel, where you want to eat, is all these things, but they don't really talk about the things that really are the glue of the relationship and where, you know, where they might be conflicts and how you handle that. That's really where the crux of it, like, because we're not always going to like each other every day and there's going to be things that we're going to be annoyed, but I still care about this person, or I still love this person, or I'm invested in this person because of these things, and I'm willing to forego these annoying things because I understand that there's a greater mission ahead. So that's what I want to say. You.